I mean, you've obviously seen these guys a ton, but at this point, you're in, what, seventh meeting of the season, this rivalry is kind of picking up, but you've got some in.
Yeah, I mean, the teams just, you don't like each other. There's enough holdover from the other years. We have some some group of our guys that have been here for these 3 years, and they do as well. And now it's seventh, I think you said, meeting, a couple dirty hits and some fights last game. I mean, that's typical Rochester Utica games, and it makes you a better team having to play teams like Utica and Syracuse as much as we do.
So on that note, 2 fights in the third period, Bozak got hurt in that game. Do you ever anticipate any sort of carryover from that level?
I mean, sometimes there is. That's not a focus of ours. That's not how we want to be wired. We're not going to let anybody push us around. And when liberties are taken, we're going to have guys stick up for each other like we did in that game. But we're not going to go into this game with any focus other than trying to play the way we want to play to give us the best chance to win.
Some of the things that you've said in describing the identity of what you want this team to be is predictable for one another. You want to be aggressive, hunting bucks, great goaltending team. You've seen Utica 6 times. What kind of identity have they tried to impose on you?
They're a physical team. They're hard to play against. They're demanding. They do a really good job in the offensive zone of putting you in some stressful situations. They have a D-core that is good at delivering pucks to the net. They get lost up in high ice in the offensive zone, and they can have some dangerous players kind of lurking off the backside. There's a lot of things that they do that put you in some uncomfortable situations. They're very good at pressuring the puck in all 3 zones. They play a very aggressive style, including in their D zone, including on their penalty kill. Their penalty kill is excellent, where they're constantly trying to put you in stressful, uncomfortable situations, and you have to be ready. It's not only physically, you got to be ready to play a hard game against them, but mentally, you have to make plays very fast against this team because they're going to put you under duress very quickly.
I don't know if it's going to be a line tonight, but we've seen Seth and Yuri Cooley with Tyson Jost a little bit. What do those 3 bring? I mean, I think Jost from all that NHL experience, that has to help 2 guys.
Yeah, it's a really good, we haven't had, that as much, right? Or older, and Jost isn't old, but he's played a lot. You had a guy like Jankowski a couple of years ago, and obviously Malone last year, a mid-20-year-old guy with some NHL experience and a lot of American experience that can be kind of a driver but also a calmer, a guy that's a calming presence in chaotic moments. We've been pretty young, obviously, the last couple of years, and we have some guys like that, but to have another guy like Jost, it's really good for Cooley and Rosie. He's a great role model. His work ethic is exceptional. His competitiveness is awesome. He's got a great attitude about this situation. He's a really, really good role model for those guys, and it also has allowed us to get Cooley to the wing. And I think in the American League, Cooley might be better at center, but long term he might be a wing in the NHL. And so having another center allows us to get Kulik over to the wall, which is another set of challenges in his development in terms of handling wall play, which is one of the most difficult plays in hockey.
You starting tonight?
Cooley will start in goal tonight.
Has there been almost an intentional rotation? I mean, obviously Levi was here last weekend, so that added a 4th name in the mix, but it feels like it's one game has been a different guy starting than all of these roles.
Yeah, there's intentional. Seamus and Seamus does a great job, and I appreciate what he does, and he's got a lot on his plate. He's scouting, he's player development, he's traveling here, always texting with our goalies or with me to make sure we're on the same page. And I think anytime you're in a situation like this at any position, communication and honesty and transparency is the best way for the players to operate. And we've laid out a plan for these guys. And if Comrie's here or if Levi's here, the nod's going to go a little towards them if there's, say, 3 games in a week. But we also want to make sure, because we have a lot of belief in Cooley and Tokarski, that they don't ever go too long without getting in the starter's net. And so we've mapped these things out, a week or 2 at a time. I think it's tough to go past 1 or 2 weeks because usually in the American League things change by then. But we have mapped it out. I don't think anybody loves a 3 goalie situation from the goalie's perspective, but I think they appreciate understanding where their starts and where their backup situations are going to be.
Goalie's last start, I think it was that first game with Charlotte.
Yes.
He was really sharp there. He got Hausman for sort of a pretty good stretch now. Really good quality starts. What's changed from the beginning of the season?
I think, it's hard coming into a new organization. It's a new organization. It's a new style of play. It's new players in front of you. Systematic changes, penalty kill changes, a lot of things when guys change organizations. And, and I don't think our first 10 games, 12 games, whatever it was as a team, we were playing great team defense either. So I think you throw all that in. I always knew that Cooley would pull his way out of it because you saw his daily work ethic. That guy takes care of himself. He works his tail off, puts a ton of extra time in, competes hard during practice, puts a ton of time in before and after practice, and is consistently one of the last guys here taking care of his body, recovery, stretching, taking care of his rehab stuff. And when you invest as much as he invests, eventually you're going to turn it because you're just investing too much.
Second half of the season, are you playing as well as also?
I think, I believe, and I've said this a lot, it's been about 17 games now of us playing really good hockey. And we weren't getting rewarded for it always in the first 7 or 8 or 9 of that 17-game stretch. Maybe we hadn't earned it yet. Maybe we just weren't scoring as much. Maybe we're still finding ways to make big mistakes in big moments and lose a lot of really, really close games. But if you stay the course, building towards your identity as a group, individually growing your game, eventually you get rewarded if you keep doing the right things. And I think now in the last 8 or so, we've gotten rewarded more often. I'm not sure we've played dramatically better than we did the 9 before that in this 17-game run. But I like the way we're playing over the last month and a half.
So now being the second half of the season, you changed philosophy, you put more pressure on players, and start to emphasize certain things more, or just continue what you're doing?
No, just keep building. The halfway point really is probably more for the fans and the media and to talk about, just because it's a logical point in the season to point to. We have reviews of where we are at points where there's a gap and there's time to talk about those things and review those things. And I don't usually I would never review like 36 games. There's no reason, I break it up into smaller chunks, and here's what the last 8 games or 10 games or 12 games, depending on when that window of games is, what they look like. Here's what we're doing well. Here's where we need to improve. Here's what our analytics say. Here's what the eye test says, but not from a halfway through the season. Our emphasis is to get better today. And that's never going to change. It's what I believe in. Do we have other things that we want to keep getting better in terms of systematic things? For sure. But my emphasis is always individually and collectively find a way to get better today. And if you keep stacking those days on top of each other, you usually end up having a pretty good hockey team.
Sorry, I forgot. So I did want to go back to last Friday because I know you talked about fights with Ciccone and Warren. We talked about how good they are as players. What does that say about how good they are as teammates for the bench?
Oh yeah, I mean that's blocking shots, sticking up for each other, fighting for each other. There's no greater sign of what kind of teammate you are than those types of things. There's nothing that gets a bench going more. There's nothing that galvanizes a team more than those types of things. And so it's not necessarily in their DNA as players historically. And so what I think it says is, one, for both of them, they're trying to grow their game and add more physicality and nastiness, because that's their upward trajectory if they want to keep growing their game in this sport. To have some of that, whether it's fighting or just physicality or whatever it is. But two, I think it shows how much they love being here. It's not just what kind of teammates they are. They're great teammates. But you don't do those things unless you love playing for the Amherst and love your teammates and love what we're trying to be about as a group. And especially when it's not, like, they're not fighters. We didn't sign either one of these guys to be fighters for us. So when you see those things from players like that, it's a good sign about what that locker room is trying to stand for as a group.